Welcome to the second session for the series Tutorials Build Automation Tool Maven. Today in this session we are going to see how can we create Maven project, what is the Maven project structure, what is the pom.xml file, and how can we add dependencies from the Maven central repositories. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm using IntelliJ IDE for creating the Maven project basically. Okay, I'm creating a new project. Just click on the new project button. Now here are some details which Maven archetype is basically the IntelliJ IDE is asking us. So first it starts with the name. Okay, so let me give the name as this is basically a tutorial. We are onto YouTube project, and this is for the build automation to Maven. Okay, then we have to keep the location basically where do we want to store this project. So this is the location in my machine which I have provided, like this project basically has to be stored in the location like desktop, then there is a directory called work, then local IntelliJ workspace, then there is a folder called YouTube channel record. Okay, now after that you can select the JDK version, Java JDK setup. We already have done, we have a dedicated series for that. Okay, and there are some further details which you can provide like advanced settings. I'll tell you like what group ID, what artifact ID, and what version is. Just give me like org.learning. Just do click on this create button. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to basically select the archetype as well. Just select this and go. Great. So far what we have done, we have just created the Maven project with the help of what? With the help of IntelliJ IDE, right? So these all are the details which we provided. This was the name, then location, then Java JDK, like which JDK version we want to use for this project, and then we selected the archetype. See, we selected this Maven archetype quick start. Okay, and then we provided some details like group ID, artifact ID, and version. Okay, so we're good with this. So once the Maven has created the project for us, so basically see what happens if you go to the project structure, get into the Eclipse ID, IntelliJ IDE. So what Maven has done for us, it is basically created a folder structure for us. See, this is the name, this is the artifact ID which we provided at the time of the creation of the project. Then there is some file called pom.xml file. We'll come to this as well. But also there is some folder structure created. You see there is a folder called src, then under this src folder or the directory we have something called main, and we have something called test. Okay, now when it comes to the test automation part, guys, if you're working for the test automation framework, so these directories have their own meanings. Basically what happens if you are writing the test cases, for example, for any web application or for mobile application or for REST APIs. Okay, so all your test cases has to be present under this directory. Okay, for example, if you are working for the web application, then you may have used Selenium WebDriver API. For mobile you may use APM, and for REST APIs operations you may use REST assured library. Okay, so this is the place where you have to put all your test cases. Okay, again, so what will be the content, what should be there in the main then? Okay, other than the test case code, other than the test case, what do I mean? Suppose if you are working with extent reports for the reporting part, so the logic which you have written, the logic and the customization which you all have done, so that part has to be present here in the Java. Okay, for example, when you are, how are you basically managing the drivers? Okay, so driver managers would be there, all your pages. For example, if you have worked with the page object model design pattern, so all those pages have to be shifted in the src main Java. I'll show you in just a few minutes. I'll show you a complete test automation framework which I created with the help of some projects, with some courses basically. Okay, so folders are like src test Java. Okay, so this src test Java is basically, this is going to have the test cases, src test resources, then we have, this is going to have the test runners. These test runners are nothing but the testng.xml files only, with the help of which what we are going to command, we are going to instruct our project that you should execute these test cases. Maybe we can group the test cases in terms of like for example, if there are 100 test cases, we may mark them 20 as smoke, 30 as sanity, okay, and 100 as regression. So everything has to be present in that. And then comes the test data part. Okay, so basically suppose if you are working with the test data, if you are executing the same test cases but with multiple data sets, okay, and you may have maintained one file like XML or JSON or XLSX, okay, so that kind of data has to be present inside this SRC test directory, okay, and then we have something called pom.xml file. We'll see, we will come to that part. Okay, so this is basically a screenshot where there is one framework which I created with the help of an Udemy course that was from Om Prakash Chavan sir, and there is a series from Testing in Bytes YouTube channel by Amutun Saktivel. Okay, so with the help of those two tutorials, those two courses, I was able to design this framework. Okay, so basically if you see in the left hand side, we have this something called SRC main Java. Okay, and in the right side, the last image only, we have something called SRC test Java. Okay, so you see under the SRC test we all have our test cases. Okay, all these are the atomic test cases. So and inside the SRC test resources we have these runners and all those properties files. Okay, this is basically like in this framework we are maintaining the different configuration files for the different environments. For example, if your project, if your web application has different environments like QA environment, dev environment, staging environment, okay, so before going live into the production environment you want to test your application, so we may have different environments, right? So these are the configuration files maintained. Also under the SRC main Java, if you come, there are a lot of libraries, there are a lot of code implementations has been done. For example, I have used the custom exceptions, I have used the factories, I have something called Java Mail API to send the reports via email. Okay, we have used something called test ng listeners. Okay, so everything, the stuff which is present inside this SRC main Java is not a test case. Okay, only the test case part, the test cases which you have for your project, for your application, will have to be there inside the SRC test Java. Okay, so I hope we are clear with this. Just a second, let me just put it here. Okay, okay, coming to the next slide, then yeah, we have something called pom.xml file. Okay, so basically what happens when you create a Maven project, this Maven project comes with a file called pom.xml file. See, this pom.xml file is a project object model, not page object model. Okay, this project object model is the fundamental unit of the entire Maven system, where we have to provide the dependencies, where we can define our plugins if we are using some, okay, and we can define the profiles as well. Let me just show you, for example, if you are working, if you want to work with the Selenium WebDriver API, if you want to automate your web application, okay, then how can you go and just add the dependencies? Basically, there is a place called Maven Central Repository. If you search in any of the browser, just Maven repo, you go to this URL, Maven repository. Okay, now what do I want? I want the dependencies from Selenium WebDriver. So you just search it for Selenium. Okay, see, and I want to go with the Selenium WebDriver API and the Java programming language. Okay, so just click on this, go inside this. So basically at this place you will be able to see all the versions provided by the Selenium WebDriver API. Okay, so let me just select this first one. You see Maven is already selected, so just come here, select everything, copy it, and now under the dependencies we are already in the pom.xml file. Let me just remove this dependency, the JUnit, okay, and paste the dependency. Now you see there is an icon called load Maven changes. It is asking us to load the Maven changes, like basically the dependency which we have added. On the basis of that, this Maven project will get loaded and these dependencies will be getting added in our project. Currently we do not have anything here for the Selenium, right? There is no library added, but if you click on the load Maven changes, also let me just comment this code because this is going to show this error because we have removed the JUnit dependencies, right? Now you see when we have loaded the Maven changes, so what happened? There are a load of dependencies have been added to your project. Okay, you see there's something called related to the Selenium. If you open it, just expand it, you see org.openqa-selenium.com. okay, this is basically a packaging name structure, like org has a openqa, then Selenium, then Chrome. So all those dependencies which are required for the web automation using Selenium WebDriver API has been added to your project. Okay, now For example, currently we only have added one dependency here, right, in our pom.xml file. So what happens, for example, if you have multiple dependencies added? When I say multiple dependencies, when you are working for a test automation framework, okay, we are not going to have a single or two dependencies. We are going to have multiple dependencies. For example, we are working with Selenium WebDriver API when we want to automate the web application, right? Then may be the case, if we are working for a mobile application, we may use APM. Or if you're working for the RESTful like API testing, basically RESTful web services, so we may have used REST assured. Okay, REST assured is nothing but the open source library written in Java. Okay, also you see, but yeah, we're going to have separate projects for web, for mobile, and for this. Also, when it comes to the REST automation framework part, there are a lot of other things which come in the picture. Example, when you're working with Java, so TestNG is a testing framework which we will use. Okay, there may be the reporting. There is something called extend reports. We may use this extend reports for the reporting purpose. Okay, in the master Selenium framework, which I shared in the last slide only, the screenshots. Okay, I have used something called Java Mail API. So this is basically a dependency where which helps us to send the emails with the help of Java Mail API. So basically what happens when your test cases are executed in your local machine, and if you want to share those reports with your client, with the recipients, so this dependency will can help you at that time. So this is basically to send the emails. Okay, also there is one more thing, log4j. If you have implemented log4j, so this will be working as a logging framework. Okay, now every time now if there are a lot of dependencies have been added to your pom.xml file, every time you don't need just need to scroll down and see what was the version of the dependency I used. Okay, for example, this value, this is something called 4.8.1, right? Now if you're working with load many dependencies, every time you don't want to come down, scroll down and update dependencies, so what you can do, under this property tags, you just come here, you create one tag, your custom tag, basically Selenium Java we are using, and the version for that I'm using is what, 4.8.1. just copy it, paste it here. Now to get this value, the value which we have on the line number 15 here, what I'm doing, I'm just doing a comment. So, and see, this is basically a way, like this is a XML file, pom.xml. okay, XML is the extension for this file, and this is the way how we can actually do the comments. Okay, so this line will not be considered when we are executing the project. Okay, now to have the dependency here, what should we do? We just use the dollar mark and then curly brackets, and see, IntelliJ ID has given with the IntelliSense, it has provided the property name. Okay, so you click on this icon, load the Maven changes. Okay, so Selenium with the version 4.8.1, everything like this value will come here, and the dependencies will be added from the Maven central repository. This was the Maven central repository to your local machine. Okay, for example, if you have now multiple dependencies like testng version, log4j version, you see I'm just deleting from the left hand side. The right hand side is automatically delete. This is the power, like when we are working with a powerful intelligent like IDE. Okay, log4j, and suppose extend reports, just remove it. See, Java will be removed from the left hand side. Okay, so we can provide all the versions at this one point time, like one place only, so these dependencies will be added to your project. Okay, now coming to this part, like what does this group ID mean, and what is this artifact ID? So this group ID is something which generally refers to domain ID. Okay, for best practices, what happens, company are using their own names. For example, if you're working for a JetBlue, Airlines. This is just an example. Okay, so how company does name your project? Like they give the IDs like org.jetblue, or they give like pom.xml. This is basically for identifying the project uniquely, nothing else. Okay, so you can give the IDs in such a way. So here we are, the purpose for these tutorials are learning, so I just provided learning. Okay, and this artifact ID is something basically the name of the project which we have given. So it's basically a tutorial from YouTube from Rajat, and it's basically for the build automation tool Maven. Okay. Okay, so I think we are almost done. Like we have seen the Maven project structure. We saw how can we add the dependencies basically, and how can we pass the values from from one place. Okay, how can we load the Maven changes? Okay, so I think we're done with this session. Thank you so much for your time. Have a very good day.